All right, so please be advised we are currently recording this class. This is to give chance to other students who won't be able to attend today. And again, today's lesson we'll talk about logical operators. So this is in continuation to our discussion about C++ programming. So be sure that your screen is on full screen. Maybe if you're using a mobile device like smartphones or tablets, make sure it's on full screen because we'll be dealing with codes. But as usual, codes may be for it to be clear on your end because I'm not sure if kusugong connection here. But if there might be some problems with my internet connectivity, at least you'll be able to see it clearly on your end. So make sure it's on full screen, and if possible, you can pin my screen as well para makita ninyo klaro. Right? So if you have any questions or clarification regarding today's lesson, you can send in your question through our e-messages here in Google Meet, or you can also send in your questions or clarifications or any concerns for that matter in our Facebook chat group. So last week, we've discussed about conditional statements. So basically, it was about creating a flow, or basically creating a different flows, or the different basically creating a decision making in controlling the flow of our program, diba? Different flow or different functions will be executed depending on the condition, diba? That is what we discussed last time using the if and else statement. And when we use the if and else statement, one particular topic that we've also discussed is the relational operator. Who can remember what are relational operators? Anyone? Who can give us an example of a relational operator? Anyone? Go ahead. Okay, that's good. Any example? Lain po. Example. Can anybody give us an example of a relational operator? Lain po. Go ahead, Kenneth. Less than. Okay, so now that we've heard about less than, so I think everybody can remember na, di ba? So basically, relational operator is the operators that we use when we're comparing two factors. It could be either a variable or identifier, so on and so forth. Diba? If we're going to compare now, how we're going to compare them? We are going to compare the value. So there might be a chance that one value is bigger than the other, then we'll call it greater than. Now, if there are some values that are less than the other, then of course it is called less than. And in some cases, there might be chance that we want a certain value that is either equals or greater than, or equals or less than, diba? Those are examples of relational operators. Now, the reason why we discussed that is because relational operators is very important for conditional statements, diba? Because that is where we're going to create a condition by comparing two factors, by comparing the value of two factors using the relational operators. Now, this time, we'll talk about another, let's say, another factors, or another way in comparing factors for the conditional statement. Again, that is logical operators. So that means logical operators are still useful for if and else statement. So remember that we'll be using logical operators. This is just another operator that we'll be using for conditional statement. And the conditional statement that we were talking about was the if and else statement. All right, so get ready. Today we're going to add something to what you've already learned about C++. We'll talk about logical operators. And these are the logical operators that we'll be discussing. We have the AND operators. Take note of the symbols that we'll be using. So this is AND. This is AND. It is fine. It composed of two ampere. So ito gani, symbol gani. Ampere What do you call this symbol? That is N, but there's a specific name for that. It is called ampersand. Okay, ampersand. So the AND operator is represented with 2 ampersand. Okay, I'm not sure because I'm not using my graphic tablet, but let me try to write it here using my mouse. Ampersand. Okay, and then next is OR operators. The OR operators are presented with this symbol. Now, this is not letter L, this is not letter I. Let me try to look for the actual name for this. I should have searched for it. I think this is called bar, if I'm not mistaken. Vertical bar, okay. All right, so it's called vertical bar. So two of them represents the OR operator. And then lastly, we have not operators, and it is represented with a exclamation mark. All right, so basically these are the additional symbols, basically additional operators that we are going to add into what we've already learned about C++ operators, and we're going to discuss exactly how they perform, and their specific uses. All right. So last time we already had this activity, but I want to repeat this activity because this is much more. This activity is much more kanang mas bagay siya today's topic than the last time. So I know everybody's already has provided us with the answer last time. So if you can remember, this was our pre-lesson activity, di ba? So below is the list of students who are applying to be NORSU freshmen. To be accepted, the student must have at least 85% senior high GPA, senior high school GPA, and must acquire at least 80% in the entrance examination. So determine the students who pass and fail. So I guess everybody have experienced this before joining in with freshmen or NORSU Bais freshmen. First is we interviewed you. In fact, I'm one of those interviewers. And then to compute your score, whether or not you will be accepted in NORSU, we are going to compute your senior high school GPA as well as grade you with the interview, diba? Now, given that these students applied for NORSU freshmen, remaining first year in NORSU Bais, and then these are the senior high school GPA, and these are the entrance examination grade. Now, how do we determine if the student passed or not? Diba? First is we're going to look at the condition. The condition here says that the student must have at least 85% senior high school GPA and must acquire at least 80% in the entrance examination. So let's check. Is Rachel going to pass, given that her GPA is 92 and 89 is her entrance exam grade? Okay, so pass. So basically, Rachel passed. It's the reason why um, Rachel passed is because we compared her senior high school GPA to the required, which is 85, and since her GPA is greater than the required, then she passed. And aside from the senior high school required grade, she also passed the entrance exam, which is only 80% required, and she got 89. So therefore, by combining these two, both the senior high school GPA and the entrance exam, and comparing it to the requirement, which is 85 and 80, we we sorry, um, we we know that Rachel is going to pass, right? So basically, we are going to compare, in this lesson, we are going to compare same thing that we did last time. We are going to compare two factors, but this time it will involve multiple conditions. So, sa atong previous discussion, only going to compare two, di ba? This time we're going to compare multiple. All right. So same thing. Is Monica is going to pass? No, it's because basically both her senior high school GPA and the entrance examination didn't match or didn't meet the requirement from her. So, all right. So since everybody's already done with this activity, we're just going to skip it. But I just want to present it again because this is much more relatable activity to this topic today compared to our previous topic before. All right? So let's start now. C++ logical operators. Logical operators are used to combining two or more conditions or constraints or to complement the evaluation of the original condition in consideration. So medyo taas yan in discussion. This is from Wikipedia. But in fact, just take note of the common word na gigamit. That is combining two or more conditions or to complement the evaluations. Basically, we are trying to compare conditions by combining two of them. Diba? Before, we were only doing one conditions, but this time we are going to combine two conditions in one. And then compare it to the original condition in consideration. The result of the operation of a logical operator is called Boolean value. Now, who can remember Boolean data type, if you can remember? Back in our data type discussion, can mo nga na Boolean? Natay int, char, string. Anyone? Can dumuha ng Boolean? Okay, but we haven't really discussed it because we don't necessarily have to use Boolean every time. But this time, the result of combining using logical operator is going to result a Boolean value, meaning it's just going to be either true or false. All right. So logical operators are well suited for checking the validity of two or more comparative operations. The operators then output a specific response based on the nature of the operator and whether or both operands are true. In C++, we often see this in the form of an if-else statement. All right, so basically the C++ logical operators will be mostly used for the if and else statement. So in our course for programming 1, we're not going to be using the logical operators elsewhere. We're just going to use it in if-else statement. Now, so basically these are the logical operators. We have the and. So it is called, for example, A and B. What does it mean? Basically, this is called logical AND. Meaning, true if all of the operands are true. So basically, A should be equals to B, and this will be true. Right? Both A and B should be true. That is for the operator and. Meaning, both A and B should be true. And then next is we have the logical OR operator. This is how it's going to be written. For example, we have A or B, meaning either of these operands, meaning A and B, they are called operands. At least one of them is true. It could be either A is true and then B is false, or either either A is false and then B is true, then it is true. All right, we'll talk more about it in just a moment. And then last, we have the NOT operator or logical NOT operator. It is true only if the operand is false. So basically, it reverses the original value of the truth value of the operand. So for example, if A is true, then by using not true, then obviously it will turn into false. Or if A is false, then by putting not on it, meaning it's going to be not false, therefore it is true. Now it doesn't really make sense just much, but just take note of the dili kayo siya mo make sense for now, but just take note of the truth value, okay? So let's start with the logical the logical AND operator. The logical AND operator looks at the operands on either of each side and returns true only if both statements are true. If even just one of the two statements is false, the logical AND will return false. Okay, so before we proceed with this truth value, diba, if you can remember in our conditional statement, diba, if the if statement will be performed if the condition is true, right? So maybe naglibog mo na ay true and false. Remember that in if statement, the if statement will be executed or will be performed if the statement is true. And unsa lang gani pag false? Else. Else. Okay? So again, going back, before we will discuss the truth table, basically the if statement it will be performed if the condition is true, and then the else will be performed if the condition is false. So same thing like that. So let's think about that. For example, we have two operands or two variables, whatever you call it. For example, we have A and B. Now, if A is true, let's start with the first line. So since we are trying to compare we are trying to compare two operands naman. So if we're going to, how do we determine if the if statement is true if we're going to use two conditions? So here, if condition A is true and then condition B is true, and we are using the AND operator, therefore, the statement is true. Meaning, if we're using it for our if statement, it will be performed. Diba? Let me write it down here. So if, and then true. Okay, let me get my graphic tablet real quick. Hold on. Dali lang guys, maglisod kong sulat, wala ng tablet. All right. Again, let's go back. If remember back in our conditional statement, if will be executed if the condition is true, and then else if false, right? That we've already discussed that last time. Now, again, how do we know if the condition is true if we are using if we are combining two um, operands or two variables? So, for example, if the first condition is true and then the second is true, therefore the condition is true, meaning the if will be executed. Now, if one of the operands is false, then it will the entire condition is going to be false. So let's say, for example, if A is true but B is false, therefore the entire condition is going to be false. Same thing, if A is false and B is true, then the condition is going to be false. Same thing with false, much more when both of the operands are false, then therefore the entire condition is going to be false. Meaning, the if condition will only be when using the AND operator, the if condition will only be executed if both A and B, or meaning both the operands are true. The rest, If one of them turns out to be false, then dire siya mo function. Ari siya sa else. Alright, nagets lang? So if you can remember, going back, last time, let's forget about the logical operator. Using only the, when we're still using the relational operator, di ba, usara to kabok ato i-compare. For example, if let's say int is 100, okay? So if int is equals to 100, then that means it is true. However, else, false. Diba? So we already know that the statement is true. It's because it says here the int is 100, and basically in this condition, the condition here is true. Basically, there's only one condition. However, if we're going to combine multiple conditions, so for example, int a, and then napataylain nga int, let's say 50. So we can combine them, and we'll talk more about it in just a few moments. But you get the idea. So we are no longer using one condition. We are now combining two conditions. And if one of those conditions is false, then the entire condition is false. The only time that using the AND operator, the only time that the conditions will be true if both the operands are true. Okay, let's take a look at the example na lang. All right. So we'll create a program that will display if the applicant is qualified for the job. The age limit is 18 to 25 years old. All right. So let's open up our Dev C++. Again, we're going to create a program that will display if the applicant is qualified for the job. Let's say, for example, na ay job opening sa, let's say, Orsumco. Nakadawag ba tanan sa Orsumco? Of course. All right, na job opening sa Orsumco, and then they will only accept an applicant that is from 18 to 25 years old. So how do we create a program for that? Okay, so let me start with the koan. Let me start with the standard C++ codes. Hold on. All right, again, this program will display if the applicant is qualified for the job. All right, and unsa ganito age requirement? Okay, it's 18 to 25 years old. All right, so first is we're going to set our variable. So let's call it int because we are using age, diba? Whole numbers man age. And let's say 24. So we know that using our logic, diba? Using our minds, we know right away that the applicant, if his or her age is 24, qualified ba siya? Yes, it's because it is under the age requirement, which is 18 to 25, diba? However, our computers do not think like that. It doesn't think logically like us, so we have to instruct the computer what to do, diba? That's the that's the general idea in programming. So here's the thing: we are going to create a conditional statement that if age is greater, or let's say greater or equals to 18, pwede ba ug butang ug ato ning buhaton inana? Sakto ba atong condition? So moingon siya nga, let's say you are qualified for the job, or else if Ingon siya nga, sorry, you are not qualified for job. All right, let's analyze. Right now, we're using the relational operator, the standard relational operator, the greater than or equals to. Now, let's try to analyze this based on the requirement for our program that the program should display, will display if the applicant is qualified for the job. Age requirement is 18 to 25 years old. Now, if age is 24, now is it true? We would say age is is greater than or equal to. Do you think this is the right condition? Okay, what if? Okay, that's true. However, ang gibutang is up to 25 raman. So, right now, since it's 24, that's true. However, what if mubutang ko 26? And based on our condition, this is still true, di ba? This is still true because 26 is greater than 18. However, based on the requirement of the program, nga dapat 25 ra siya kutob. Now, how are we going to set our condition? We are going to set a limit, right? We're going to set a limit because in our program, it only says that it must be about from 18 to 25. So how do we set a limit na dapat na aray bracket from 18 to 25 ra gyud ang pwedeng madawat? So that's the time that we'll be using logical operator. So we are going to create another set of condition using the same if statement. So we will use, what do you think? Unsa siguro nga operator itong gamiton? Unsa lang siguro? Okay, the and. All right. So meaning we are going to set another condition for the another operand for the same condition. So since this, we all know that here ma-apply nato ning condition which is age is greater than or equal to 18, meaning it shouldn't be less than any number which is less than 18 will be automatically false. But we also want that all numbers above 25 is also going to be false. All right? So basically, it will remain true if the number are greater than or equal to 18 and isa siguro less than or equal to unsa man 25. All right? So we already know. So for example, let's check. Let's set it back to 24. So going back to our truth table, it says there na both A and B, for example, this one, and B. So if A and B must be true for it to be true, di ba? Otherwise, if one of them is false, then it's going to be false. Let's go back to our program. So here, our first operand is age is greater than or equals to 18. Again, our age atong gibutang is 24. Now, let's check if this is true. Is it true that age is greater than or equals to 18? Okay, that's true, right? Because 18 is greater than, I'm sorry, 24 is greater than 18, right? So this is true. We know that this part is true. Let's check the other one. So is 24 less than or equals to 25? True. All right. So since ato ang truth table na if both of them are true, then therefore it is true, right? So we can expect that this will be executed because this is true. The if will be executed if the statement is true, diba? So since both of these operands are true, therefore this will also be executed. So let's try to run. Let's save it. Execute, compile and run. Oops. Ano po ni semicolon. All right. So it says here, you are qualified for the job, meaning the if statement is executed. Now, what about if that is because we set that the age is 24? So let's say it's 26. So let's check. For the first part, age is greater than or equals to 18. Is 26 greater than or equals to 18? Okay, true. This time, however, age is less than or equals to 25. Is 26 less than or equal to 25? False. All right, that is not true. Therefore, going back to our truth table, one of them is true, but one of them is also false. So therefore, the entire statement is false. Okay, so which of these statement will be executed? Kane. All right. So let's save. Let's execute and run. So it says here, sorry, you are not qualified for the job. All right. So one more thing. If we're going to set it to, let's say, 18. All right. I'm sorry. Let's set it a little. Sorry, less than 18. So here, let's check. Our given here is 17. So age is greater than or equals to 18. Is 17 greater than or equals to 18? False na. Alright, false na siya. And then here, that is true because 17 is less than 25, di ba? So we have false in this in the left side, but I'm sorry, we have true on the right side, but we have false on the left side. Therefore, it will be false. Therefore, else will be executed. So let's save and then let's execute and run. It says still it says here, sorry, you are not qualified for the job. So you see the idea. Basically, instead of just using one condition, we are now comparing two conditions, and then if you're using the and, both the conditions must be true. Na magpa-accept. Hold on. Natod. Wala ni gana ako ang auto-accept. Alright. Okay. Alright, so again, that is the functionality or the purpose of the and. If we are thinking about the conditions, both the conditions must, or both the conditions must be true. So see here, diba, since we are setting a program that will accept students or applicants the if age is from between 18 to 25. So first is we're going to create a condition that the age must be greater than or equals to 18 and less than or equals to 25. Then it will give us the range that the age requirement would be 18 to 25. So it will accept any numbers from 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Any other numbers that will be other than that will be false. Okay, nag-gets rin yung idea sa um, logical operators. Okay, all right. So basically, we are trying to combine. Last time, if you're just using the standard relational operator, this time we are using the logical operator. Basically, we are combining two logics. I'm sorry, two variables or whatever you want to call it. But basically, they're called operands. All right, so that is and operators. So make sure to take note of our truth value for the and operator. So basically, the only time that the statement will be true if both the conditions are true. Otherwise, if one of the condition is false, then the entire statement is false. All right, next. Okay, let's analyze our programs and lang before proceed. So basically, the truth table, the age that we that we gave is 24. So since in this part, which is our first condition is age greater than or equals to 18, well, obviously that is true. And then 24 is 24 less than or equals to 25, well, obviously that is true. Um, therefore, the entire statement is true. Do you follow? Okay, all right, so that's it. Next is we have the or operator. So again, take note of the symbol that we are using, it is this one. This is not L, this is not capital I, it is the vertical bar, okay? If you're using, I'm not sure how to show it, but let me show you a picture of a keyboard. Okay, let me show you a picture of a keyboard na lang. Open image and new tab. Okay, so the bar, hanap man po. Dito, paglain ko na mas klaro. Tara. Kani, shift and then kani. Most of the time, it is either below the backspace or nakatapat ba siya sa backspace. So, shift and then kana. Usually, sometimes na siya below sa backspace or it could be either on the right side of the backspace. So, just one. So, shift and then press this. It will give you the vertical bar. Just in case it will give you a backslash, just press shift and then this. It will give you the vertical bar. So, let me close that real quick. Okay, so the vertical bar, two vertical bars that represents the logical OR operator. It works similarly to the AND operator. The difference is that the OR will return true if either of the operands is true. The OR operator will only return a false value if both operands are false. Okay, so using the OR operator, so diba, going back with our AND operator, that both of the operands must be true for the statement to be true, diba? For the OR, basta any of the operands are true, then the statement is true. Let's take a look. So we have here examples A and B. Now, if A is true, the condition A is true, and then condition B is true, therefore the statement is true. Diba? Same thing with the AND. However, if A is true and then B is false, it is still true. Unlike sa AND nga kani siya false na siya sa AND. Using the OR operator, if one of the operand is true, therefore the statement is true. So since although bisag false ang atong B, but the A is true, therefore the statement is true. Same thing, if A is false, but our B is true, the statement is true. It will only return false if both of the both of the conditions are false, then that's the only time that it will return a false value. Okay, so going back again, basta na siya true and any of the operands, it will return, it is going to be the statement is true, but if both of the operands are false, then the statement is false. Alright? So, nakita niyo yung difference between the and the OR? Okay, opposite sila. Alright. Okay, so let's try to create a program that will illustrate that will illustrate the functions of the OR logical OR operator. So we are going to create a program that will display if either of the person is of legal age. The legal age is 18 years old and above. All right. So we're going to create a program that will display either of the person is of legal age, and then the legal age is 18 years old and above. So let me open up Dev C++ real quick. So you might want to take a screenshot. Anyway, I'm going to send you the kuan mapod, so no worries. I'm going to send you the presentation file so that you can just review it yourself at home. So, but if you want to take a screenshot, you can do it now. All right. So let's create a program. Okay, so this program will display if either of the persons is of legal age. And then the legal age is 18 years old and above. All right, so let's start with, so we're going to compare two persons, and then we're going to determine if one of them is either of them is of legal age or not. Okay, so obviously we'll be comparing two persons now. So let's call the first one age of, let's say, person one. Okay, let's give them about 24 age. 24 ko na ang first person. Ang second na person, let's call it age person 2. Let's give them 17. All right? So obviously, we already know, right now, we already know that our statement is true because either, di ba? One of them is, mm, one of them is, sorry, true. Because one of them is legal, di ba? So the entire statement is supposedly it should be true. But let's try to create a program. So first is we're going to create if an age person 1 is greater than 18, di ba? So meaning si person 1 is 18 and age person 2 meaning si person 2 is greater than or equals to 18, meaning if both of them is greater than or equals to 18, then um, it will display. Okay, thank you. All right. Then if both of them are greater than or equals to 18, then it will display both of the persons are of legal age. Diba? So still we're using the and operator. So if both of them are greater than or equals to 18, then it will display both of the person are of legal age. But what if one of them is legal and one of them is not? So we are going to use else if. Else if, and we're going to create another statement or another condition that says if age person 1 is greater than or equals to 18, or, so we'll be using the bar, age person 2 is greater than or equals to 18, it will display see out. Okay, thank you. All right, thanks. It will display either of the person is of legal age. All right. Otherwise, if both is false, it will display both are false there. Meaning, if both of the person is dili siya legal age, then it will display neither of the person is of legal age. And then return 0. All right, let's analyze our program. So for the first statement, which is on our first if, di ba? So we're using the and operator because we are trying to compare the two person and both of them must have greater than or equals to 18. Okay, so let's check. Our first person is 24 and our second person is 17. Is it going to be true? Kenny? Is this going to be executed? Yeah, ato ang age diri kay 17 man. False. Okay, so basically the first person is true. Okay, it's okay. I understand nga nung nabatpan ka because we're talking about the or now. But still, right now we're still using the and, di ba? So the first person one is 24. So therefore, in this case, it is true. Diba? However, the second person is 17 only. So this condition is false. Therefore, this statement is false. So our compiler will proceed to the next condition. Now, the next condition is else if we are using the or statement. So the first person is greater than or equals to 18, or the second person is greater than or equals to 18. So basically, we're already given option that either of the two is true. Diba? So let's check. Since our first person is 24, so I'm sorry, 24. Is 24 greater than or equals to 18? True, diba? And then on the second person, he's only 17. So here, this is true. Here is false, diba? Because 17 is not greater than 18. But since we are using the or, diba? Since one of them is true, therefore, this statement is suman. True. Okay, let's go back to our truth table, diba? For the or operator, if one of them is true, bahalag false pa ng usa, the statement is true. So here, going back, in this case, since one of the condition is true, therefore this statement is true, therefore this will be executed. So we're expecting that this should be executed. So let's try. Let's save, and then let's execute, compile and run. And here, it says here, either of the person is of legal age, meaning kani ang iyahang i-execute. It's because one of them is only true. All right? So let's check. What if we're going to set both of them true? Okay, natong ibutang nato sila tanan true. Asa siguro i-execute? Let's find out. So what about the second person is 19? So we're expecting that masangit na tadaan sa if. So let's check. Compile and run. I think there's something wrong. There's something wrong. Okay, I think they problem ako ang compiler. It's okay. All right. Let's just set, diba? It's already been um, established that when we're using the or operator, that only one of the statement is true, then the entire. Oh, I'm sorry. If one of the condition is true, then the entire statement is true. The only time that it will only render false if neither of these condition is true. So let's say, for example, if both of them are minors, let's say 15 and then usakay 12. So let's check. First person is age is 12 greater than or equals to 18? False. All right. How about 15 is greater than or equals to 18? So the same thing, it's false. So therefore, it will display this. At least that's what we're expecting. So let's save that, compile and run. Here, neither of the person is of legal age, meaning diri siya. So that's the only time that the statement is going to be false if both of the operands, both of the conditions are false. All right? Do you follow? Okay. All right. And then, so here, let's go back to let's analyze our code. So if the first person is 24, the second person is 17. So here, it is age is going to be, sayop akong truth table. My apologies. Let me let me correct it real quick. So dili na mao. So age person A is equals to 24, and then age person B is equals to 17. All right. So let's check. Is 24 greater than or equals to 18? That's true. But 17 greater than or equals to 18, that's false. But since we are using the or statement, the entire or operator, then the entire statement is true. Therefore, kani ang iyahang execute. All right. So lastly, we have the not operator, logical not operator. So the not logical operator is used to convert a value from true to false or from false to true. It reverses the operand's logical state. So the not operator doesn't really do that much. It will just it will just literally reverse the value of the operand. Diba? If the operand is true or if the condition is true, if we're going to use not, then it will say, for example, if it is true, then it's going to be false. But if it's false, it's going to be true. Basically, it reverses the truth value or the logical state of the operand. All right. So again, if A is true, then not A is false. Diba? If A is false, then not A is true. Okay? Kada, sa'yo na kayo siyang subton. Basically, it just reverses the logical state or the value of the operand. So when do we use that? Actually, I'm trying to analyze unsang mga scenarios that we can create that we will use the not statement. And I think it will fall down into, for example, nagama kag daghan na kayo nga kang gagi code, but daghan na kay kang gi-write nga codes, di ba? Daghan na kay kang gi-write. Nagkama kag program, daghan na kayong lines of codes, and for some reason, your logical or your conditional statement, you messed up with the conditional statement, na nag-create ka of condition which is supposedly false, but true im gi-create. So we can always use, I think that is the only time that we're going to use the not. We're going to reverse the value. So let's create a program. So this program will display if a user is allowed to access a certain website. Diba? I'm pretty sure some of you, no matter how much I think of how I think of you as an innocent people, but I think you already know that there are some websites that requires age restriction. But I know you're thinking of some certain websites now, but there are some websites that will restrict users from entering, that they have to agree that they have to declare that they are already 18 and above before you can proceed to the website. Can you think of any website? Inana? Okay, I know you're thinking. I know you're thinking about it, but again, for the sake of this lesson, we're going to create a program that will display if the user is allowed to access a certain website. So, user must be 18 years old and above for you to be able to proceed. So let me erase all of it. Let's start. So here. Okay. So this program will display if a user is allowed to access a certain website. The user must be 18 years old and above. All right. So let's start with our age. In age is, let's say, 24. So we all know that if the age is 24, given that the user must be 18 years old and above to be able to join in, to be able to proceed, we all know that 24. Obviously, this user should be able to proceed. However, we're going to tell our computer to do so. So we're going to create a condition if age is less than or equals to 17, meaning 17 and below. And this is what I meant when I say if you mess up with the condition. So, for example, if 17 and below, it will say welcome to the, let's say, restrictedsite.com. All right. However, if it's more than 18, it will display. If 18 and above, it will display unable to proceed to. All right. Okay. So, sakto ba itong program? Here, it says here that our program will display if the user is allowed to access a certain website, and the user must be 18 years old and above for them to be able to proceed. So it says here that if the age is less than or equals to 17, it will display welcome to restrictedsite.com. However, if we've entered 18 and above, it will display unable to proceed to restrictedsite.com. Is it is it true? Sakto ba nga program? Sakto ba atong condition? Anyone? Go ahead, Marichu. Go ahead. Ha? Okay, kuan ni kuan ba ni match ba siya sa description sa atong program? Wala, di ba? So I think this is the only time that we can use the not statement. For example, kani, it will be very easy for me to change it back, di ba? So I just have to change it to, let's say, greater than or equals to 18, and it will make sense, di ba? If, ako, if I'm just going to change it that way, that is basically that is one way to fix it. However, if let's say for example, ni-create na ka o daghan na kayong create nga daghan na kayong mga lines imong na-create, and it would be very hard for you to change it. It would be very hard for you to reverse it, di ba? Then that's the I think. Okay, I'm thinking of any other possible ways, but I think that is the only way that we'll be using the not logical operator. So how are we going to fix it aside from changing this kani, changing our entire condition? Then we are using the not. Again, the not logical operator reverses the condition. So we know that this is wrong. Sa'yo, wala siya ni match sa atong program because the program must be 18 years old and above. But this time, ang iyan na nang i-accept kay ang mga 17 and below. So using the not, we're just going to add not age, all right? So meaning, instead of this being the true value, this will now be the false. And this will be the true, all right? So let's check, let's save that. So our age is 24. So kaning imbes na true dapat kani ang iyang ibutang. So let's save that. Let's execute, compile, and run. It will display welcome to restrictedsite.com. Although, based on the condition, now if we're going to remove this, based on the condition, dapat kaniyang iyahang i-load, di ba? I'm sorry, dapat kaniyang iyahang i-execute because our condition here is false because the age is 24 and then the condition here is less than or equals to 17, meaning we should enter numbers from 17 and below. Therefore, this statement is supposed to be false. So to fix it, we're just going to add not age, meaning we're going to interchange or reverse the value of our condition. So na false na, this time this will be true, this will be false. That's why, although the statement is false, we're still able to come up with a true value. Welcome to restrictedsite.com. Do you follow? All right. So basically, um, again, I haven't really thought of any other possible scenarios that we're going to use the not of logical operators, but I think this is one way. So obviously, the not logical operator is really not that useful. It will only reverse the value the of the operands, the logical state of the operands. So if it's true, then not. For example, if A is true, then not A is false, or if A is false, then not A is true. So basically, it will just reverse the value of the operands. All right. So do you have any questions, guys? All right. So just a recap. So that would be the logical operator. We have three logical operators. We have the and, or, and then not operator. So for the and, both of the conditions must be true for the statement to be true. One false, the entire statement will be false. So that is the AND operator. And then in OR operator, either one of the operand is true, then the entire statement is true. But if both of the operands is false, then the entire statement is false. And then lastly, we have the not operator. Basically, it will just literally reverse the state or logical state of an operand. So if it's false, then it's going to be true. If it's true, it's going to be false. Right? So that's it. This is going to be your assignment. So remember, I've shown you our activity a while ago, which of the student is going to be accepted in NORSU Bais, given that the student must have at least 85% senior high school GPA and must acquire 80% in the entrance exam. Diba? That was our activity when we start our class. You are going to create a program that will do just that. Okay, write a C++ program that will determine if a freshman applicant for NORSU Bais is accepted or not. To be accepted, the student must have at least 85% senior high school GPA and must acquire at least 80% in the entrance examination. So if program will display a remark according to the following conditions. If the program will display the program will display a remark according to the following conditions. So create an output. Di ba? Mugamara mo program that will output the following depending on the student's grade. So if senior high school GPA passed, meaning 85 and above, and the entrance examination also passed, it will display, congratulations, you passed. However, if the senior high school GPA failed, but the entrance examination failed, it will say, sorry, either your senior high school GPA or entrance examination score failed. Same thing if either the senior high school GPA is passed, but the entrance examination failed, it will display, sorry, either your senior high school GPA or entrance examination score failed. But if both of the senior high school GPA and entrance examination failed, it will display, sorry, you failed. So basically, you're going to create three possible scenarios. One, given that all tanan ni pass jud siya, and then second, if one of either the senior high school GPA or entrance examination is failed, then it will display, sorry, either your senior high school GPA or entrance examination score failed. But if both the grades are failed, meaning it will display, sorry, you failed. Nag-gets rin yung assignment? Alright, so dapat mauna yung output, okay? So if both grades pass, kani mo output, tulok output lang. Ako rin guys, same naman eh. Same, tulok output, we have congratulations, you passed. The second is, sorry, either your senior high school GPA, pareha naman na. Pareha naman is lang daw, di ba? Kay or. And then, however, if both senior high school GPA and entrance examination failed, it will display, sorry, you failed. Right? So basically, you will be using user input. So same thing, you're going to take a screenshot for your codes, and then you're going to take a screenshot for the first output, and then second output, and then the third output. So you'll be using user input, meaning kinahanglan mo i-enter ang number. You have to enter the grade for the senior high school GPA and then for the entrance examination. And the deadline would be next month. Next week. That is December 2nd, 2021, Thursday. Right? Do you have any questions regarding your assignment? Okay. All right, so I'm going to end the recording now.